Hi guys, welcome back to another video on the channel. So, in this video we're going to be looking at the Samsung Galaxy S23 Ultra. I've got to say, wow. I'm going to be brutally honest with you. I haven't properly used an Android phone in years. I believe the last Android phone I had was the Xiaomi Redmi Note 11 or 10 I think it was. I got it on a Black Friday deal. It was like 130 quid. And I mean, don't get me wrong, it was brilliant for how much money I paid for it. But it wasn't a good taste of what Android really has to offer. Now, I knew this phone was going to be good, but did I know it was going to be this good? Nah, not really. But without further ado, as usual, let's start off with the design and build quality. And I tell you something, this phone is gorgeous. Now, going back a couple of years when the S22 Ultra came out, I really did not like the design. I thought, iPhones have got these curved edges around the phone, it looks nice, it makes it look a little bit more friendly, I suppose you can say, feels comfy in the hands. Why on earth would you want a boxy phone? But I tell you what, it's really grown on me. But not only looks really good, it's built like a tank as well. So on this phone, Samsung are using Gorilla Glass Victus 2. So if you're the kind of person who doesn't like to have a screen protector or a case on your phone, so you can be a little bit less worried when you put your phone in your pocket or you put it down on the table or whatever you do with it, it's less likely to get scratched. It really is one of the most durable smartphone displays out right now. So yeah, build quality, sensational.
Right guys, I'm just going to interrupt because I've just in the middle of editing this video and I've just realised we've hit 1,000 subscribers. I just want to say thank you. I don't really know what to say. But yeah, I mean, I started doing my videos in March and I've done 20 long form videos now and like 50 videos in total, including shorts. But I just want to say thank you for all the support throughout this last 6 months. But yeah, if you're watching this now and you're not subscribed, do me a favour, hit that subscribe button. Maybe we'll hit 2,000 pretty soon. But yeah, back to the video.
You do have IP68 water and dust resistance, so if your phone happens to get drenched or it's covered in sand, it's safe to say you'll probably be okay. Now don't go out and try it, but you should be fine. Now in terms of design, at first, I really didn't like the idea of the boxed off edges, but as I've used it, it just makes the phone even more immersive. Especially due to the fact that there's no massive dynamic island or there's no notch covering up the display. Now there's definitely some downsides to not having a notch or having a big camera cutout. You do get the downsides in terms of losing camera quality and stuff like that, but for actual just using the display, it makes it so much nicer. Now in terms of the side rails of the phone, they're not as curved as the S22 Ultra from last year. Now I will say it's much more comfortable in your hand to hold, but it's a little bit more slippery. Probably best to get yourself a case. Now I've got the green model here, but the S23 Ultra does come in 4 separate colours. You can also get graphite, you can get lavender, and you can get cream as well. Personally, I really like the graphite and the green colour. I think they're really, really beautiful. I do also really like that matte texture that you do get on the back of the phone. I'm really not a fan of phones that have a glossy back. I don't know why, it just, in my opinion, makes it feel a little bit sticky if you get all your fingerprints over it, and it just doesn't feel anywhere near as premium. Just overall makes it feel a lot more budget. But luckily, for my taste, we don't have that. Now, one of the most unique features as well about the S23 Ultra in terms of its design, you do get a built-in S Pen. So if you do want to draft up some notes or some sketches and stuff like that, or you want to annotate a screenshot, things like that, sign off an email, the S23 Ultra is perfect for that. But I like the fact that the S Pen can just be stored in the phone itself, so at least you're not going to lose it. And as well as that, you do get a dual SIM card slot as well, so if you're that kind of person who needs 2 SIMs, you're sorted here as well. Now let's briefly talk over about the specs for this phone as well. So unlike every other flagship Android phone right now, we do have the Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 for Galaxy. Now, I'll be honest with you, I think it's a little bit of a marketing ploy. The performance gains are marginal between the Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 and the Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 for Galaxy. You're looking at around a 5% improvement. Now, the base model that I've got here comes with 256GB of storage and 8GB of RAM. But if you do decide that you want to splash out a bit more cash and upgrade to the higher storage model, you will get an extra 4GB of RAM. So that means 12GB of RAM in total with 512GB of storage, or the 1TB, whatever you go for. I wouldn't upgrade to the 512 storage just to get that extra RAM. Only get it if you actually want the extra storage. I don't think realistically you're going to see a massive difference unless you're an absolutely insane gamer and every single FPS counts for you. In my personal opinion, I would only go for the 512 storage or the 1TB if you want the storage and not the RAM. But it's something to keep in mind. Now in terms of how this translates into everyday use, performance, it's immaculate. I literally could not bring this phone to its knees. And to be fair, I do expect that for this kind of price, but it's just nice to see that if you're paying this kind of money, you're getting top-notch performance. Now, I'm definitely not a mobile gamer, so I haven't really been putting it through its paces in terms of gaming, but just everyday use, browsing the web, going through social media, Animations are snappy, there's very little lag, and because of that 240Hz touch sample rate as well, everything just feels so fast. Overall, performance is brilliant. Personally, I'm not a big benchmark guy, but here I'll just throw up some of the Geekbench scores as well. But it's safe to say this phone is super fast, and it probably will stay the same for many years to come as well. But I think if you bought this phone today, I don't think you're going to need to upgrade, or at least think about upgrading this phone for a good 3 or 4 years. It's that good. Now the next thing I want to talk about is the display. Now I was watching a film the other night, and the screen on this is next level. And it's not because of the screen quality itself, because that is very similar to many other phones. But yeah, again, it's the corners of the phone, it's the fact that it's boxed off, and you get that full screen effect. It just genuinely makes it feel so much more immersive compared to a lot of other phones that are out right now. And because you haven't got a massive notch or a dynamic island intruding on the screen, yeah, again, it just seems so much more immersive. Now I was comparing the resolutions between 1080p and 1440p, because you can set this phone all the way up to 1440p. You can also go all the way down to 720p. But to be honest, 1440p and 1080p didn't seem like much of a difference. Like, they were very similar. I think on a phone this size, 1080p is absolutely fine. But I wouldn't really touch 720p. You could definitely see the drop in quality when you went down to 720p though. So I wouldn't recommend that setting. But you've got 120Hz at 1080p and 1440p. And as well as that, a pixel density of 500 ppi. The speakers on this phone as well sound really, really good. They've got Dolby Atmos support and they get really, really loud. I did notice as well at full volume they get a little bit distorted, and now the actual audio quality wasn't really as good as it was at around that 70% volume mark. But on a whole, the sound quality is really good, and you can totally rely on these for watching a film and they'll sound incredible. But I really don't think any of this surprises anyone. Samsung have been making absolutely incredible displays for years and years and years. But it's good to know this year is no different. Now the next thing I want to talk about is battery life, and I don't have anything bad to say. I don't know what else to say. Literally, it's more than enough, and in fact it's so good that I'll forget to charge it and then it'll die because I've just forgotten that I have to charge the phone. And that's just me being silly. That makes no sense probably. So safe to say, this battery life is ridiculous. It really just reminds me of when I first got my iPhone 14 Pro Max. That battery life was stupid. I literally could not kill the battery on my 14 Pro Max when I first got it. And the S23 Ultra is very similar to that. But you really do not have to worry with this. Now in terms of charging speeds, you do have 45 watt fast charging on this phone, and you can expect to get a full charge within an hour if you've got the right wall adapter. Now the next thing I want to talk about is the cameras. Now this is what I was looking forward to testing out with the S23 Ultra. And the first couple of days when I was just getting the hang of the phone, I was quite underwhelmed, I'll be honest with you. But after testing out the 200 megapixel photos, the 50 megapixel photos, the 3x lens, the 10x lens, testing video on all of it as well, I'm really impressed. Now one of the most hyped things with the S23 Ultra is that 100x zoom. I don't know if I've just got really shaky hands, but I did not enjoy using that at all. I couldn't really get any decent photos out of it. To be honest, I think if you put the phone on a tripod and use it that way and then get the photos, the steady zoom and stuff like that, I can imagine you can get really great results out of that 100x. From my experience, everything looks a little bit like a water painting, and it looked very AI generated, or at least AI edited. Overall, I never really touched the 100x. I think the 10x optical lens is incredible. I would go as far as saying it is better than the 3x lens on the iPhone 15 Pro. Obviously it's a much bigger zoom, but I mean in terms of actual quality from what you get for both of the lenses. And the 3x as well is really good, but look at some of the photos I can get from the 10x. It was really good. Now, don't get me wrong, this isn't optimal lighting. I can imagine it's not going to have as great performance in lower light, but some of the photos I could get out of this 10x zoom was so nice. One of the best things about the S23 Ultra in terms of the camera is the flexibility that you've got in terms of taking photos. If you're snapping photos all the time and you want to save as much storage as possible, you can shoot at 12 megapixels. But if you want to get that optimal quality, you can go up to 50 megapixels, but you can also go all the way up to 200 megapixels. Now I'll put some photos on screen for you now. The major increase in quality is from the 12 megapixel lens up to the 50 megapixel lens. Going from the 50 megapixel to 200 megapixel, don't get me wrong, you get a massive improvement in quality, but unless you're really zooming in, the general picture quality isn't that much greater compared to the 50 megapixel. With this phone you can take ultra wide photos, you can take macro photos, you've got huge telephoto lenses, the possibilities are endless. I would always say, and like I say to people with the iPhones, if you want to get the best quality, you want to use that main lens. If you want to get ultra close up fine detail shots, by all means use your macro camera. If you want to get ultra wide photos of landscapes and stuff, by all means use the ultra wide lens. But if you want to get the really nice blurry backgrounds that you can get sometimes in photos, If you want to get the really nice blurry backgrounds with the bokeh in the background, sometimes it's really hard to get out of smartphone cameras. You want to use that main lens because it is just so much higher quality. Now in terms of video quality as well, it's still struggling to compete with the iPhone, but the quality overall is exceptional. You've got absolutely tons of options in terms of shooting video on the S23 Ultra. You can go all the way up to 8K at 30 FPS, which is ridiculous. We can't even view that kind of footage right now. If you want to maximise that video quality, you've got the option there. Now it does take a lot of storage space shooting in 8K, so be mindful of that, but the option is there, and that's the great thing about it. Overall, the S23 Ultra is an incredible phone. You really cannot go wrong buying this phone. Now don't get me wrong, it's a little bit on the pricey side. You're looking at £1,250 in the UK. It is expensive, don't get me wrong. As we're getting closer and closer to the S24 Ultra coming out, you can find yourself a really good deal on contract. For example, you can even get this phone on a 24-month contract for $39.99 a month, which is ridiculous. And Black Friday coming soon as well. I can imagine we will see some really great discounts to this phone.
So I'm just going to interrupt the video one last time. As I've edited this video again, I just checked on Curry's website and you can actually get this S23 Ultra for £999. There's actually a coupon code that's available on the website. It just basically gives you 250 quid off at checkout. So for 999 quid, and that's if you trade, and you can trade in a phone as well, even get even more discount. But for £1,000, you can't complain whatsoever.
And if you're looking for a new phone, I've got to say, the S23 Ultra is the one to go for. Overall, this phone is absolutely incredible. From the display, to the camera quality, to the ridiculously good battery life, I think you can't go wrong buying this phone. But let me know down below what you think. If you enjoy the content, do me a massive favour. Hit the like on today's video and subscribe to the channel. And on that note, I will see you next time. Goodbye.